Then suddenly, the man changed to a completely different person from when he was at the sports club. He forcibly removed her clothes and started taking videos of her. There seems to be a will not to create cases as much as possible where men are prosecuted for sex crimes. Minasan konnichiwa, and welcome to Let's Ask Shogo. I've made a video in the past about the tragedy of chikan, molestation on trains in Japan. A lot of people took the time to watch it, and everyone seemed very scared to know about the horrifying side of Japan. But through making this video, I've come to learn that the situation regarding sexual crimes in Japan was much worse. So today, I will introduce a case of a horrific sex crime that was unfairly judged to a decision not to prosecute. Then I will explain why many get away with inhumane acts such as rape in Japan. Finally, I will also talk about what we can do to eliminate such problems in the future. This video is for everyone who wants to visit Japan even for a short time, to know about the reality of Japan and what to do to protect themselves. However, I myself am not an expert in the fields of laws and such. So if there's anything I've gotten wrong or if there's anything you'd like to add, please share your ideas and opinions in the comments. In this channel, you can take a closer look at Japanese traditional culture, tips on traveling to Kyoto, and social problems in Japan. So learners and lovers of Japanese language and culture, be sure to subscribe to enjoy more content. それでは本日も参りましょう。Then first, I will introduce an actual case of a sex crime that was not prosecuted in Japan. The incident occurred in autumn 2017, when the victim was still 19 years old. That day, she happened to be visiting the sports club on her own that she had just joined with her mother. Then a middle-aged male came to talk with her and taught the victim on how to use the pieces of equipment. When the victim walked out after finishing her training around 9 p.m., the man followed her and asked, "Do you want to go grab a drink?" She had a boyfriend of the same age, so a middle-aged man who was much older than her was never a romantic interest for her. But he was very kind, so she went along, believing she should maintain a good relationship with him if she's going to continue going to the same sports club. From there, the woman was given several drinks at a bar and became quite drunk. She tried to go home, but she was forcibly taken to another bar. From that point on, she got intoxicated and had little memory of anything happening. The last thing she remembered was hearing the male say, "The cab is here." When she had regained consciousness, she was already taken to the male's room. Then suddenly, the man changed to a completely different person from when he was at the sports club. He forcibly removed her clothes and started taking videos of her. Her cries of "Please don't take videos" were in vain, and as she desperately tried to hide her face and body, the male began raping her. The woman tried to resist as much as she could. However, her hands were easily pushed aside because of the difference of strength and also because she was still too intoxicated to put any power into her body. She was crying out of anger and sadness, but the male threatened to kill her and put a blanket over her face. After the male has finished with intercourse, the woman managed to escape from the room, but was persistently chased after by him. When he realized that the female was calling her boyfriend for help, he threatened her of spreading the video he had taken. Finally, a few friends of her boyfriend who lived nearby arrived at the scene to help, and the man finally gave up and left. The woman filed a police report on that day, and the man was arrested after a short time. The man, however, was immediately released. And after 4 months later, it was officially decided that the man would not be charged with any crimes. The man apparently still goes to the bar where he served the victim alcohol. On the other hand, the victim was so shocked that the male was not prosecuted that she quit both the sports club and the school she was going to. And also her PTSD symptoms made interpersonal relationships difficult and is preventing her from finding a job. This case is just one of dozens of unprosecuted sex crimes that occur each year, and the number of cases continues to grow. After hearing about the case, you must be wondering why such an inhumane case wouldn't be prosecuted at all. This is because Japan has the following structural problems. 1. There are flaws in the law. 2. The public prosecutor's office is a masculine organization. There are 2 laws in Japan that punish rape: forcible sexual intercourse and constructive forcible sexual intercourse. Forcible sexual intercourse: a person who, through assault or intimidation, forcibly engages in vaginal intercourse, anal intercourse, or oral intercourse with another person of not less than 13 years old of age is guilty of the crime of forcible sexual intercourse and is punished by imprisonment for a definite term of not less than 5 years. Constructive forcible sexual intercourse: a person who engages in sexual intercourse with another person by taking advantage of their unconscious state or inability to resist, or by causing the person to lose consciousness or have the inability to resist, is punished in the same manner as prescribed in the preceding article. However, neither has been able to bring many sexual offenders to justice. As a matter of fact, the male in the introduced case was not charged in either of these crimes. First, although the woman was intoxicated, she was conscious, and she cried out and showed resistance, which means neither unconscious state nor incapability to resist can be proven. Therefore, it does not apply to the crime of constructive forcible sexual intercourse. Does that mean she shouldn't have resisted at all? You might think so, but in fact, if she didn't resist at all, it would also not be a crime because it would be regarded as there was consent. In addition, the victim's resistance was too weak to prove that the male had assaulted or threatened her. Therefore, it does not apply to the crime of forcible sexual intercourse either. But didn't the man put a towel over her head and threaten to kill her? Since the incident took place behind closed doors, nobody saw the incident, meaning this could not be proven. In other words, for the man to be prosecuted, the man would have had to assault the victim to the point of obvious bruising. With this incident would finally fall under the category of through assault or intimidation forcibly. Don't you think that it's too brutal that more harm needed to be done in order to bring a man who raped a woman to justice by law? What's especially shocking is what the prosecutor had told the victim after they viewed the forcibly taken video as evidence. You said to stop taking the video, but not to stop the intercourse, right? They judged from this evidence that the woman was disapproving of the video filming, but not about the intercourse. It may seem unbelievable, but this is a real case that actually happened in Japan. As I've explained in my past videos, Japan ranks one of the lowest in gender equality rankings, and discrimination based on gender lingers deeply in society. Many experts point out that the gender biases in police and prosecutorial organizations is likely to have an effect on investigations, especially since the upper politicians and civil servants are almost exclusively male. In fact, when the female victim's lawyer checked the prosecutor's evidence, she found out that the first bar was not visited for questioning and that the outside security camera footage had not been evidenced. The lawyer was furious, saying that this was clearly intentional negligence of the prosecutors and that she felt that they were only defending the men's side. There seems to be a will not to create cases as much as possible where men are prosecuted for sex crimes. So how should we deal with sex crimes in Japan? For those of you who are interested in coming to Japan or have friends or family living in Japan, this is the most important part of this video. 1. Be very cautious when drinking outside. 2. Consult with the prosecutor's office. 3. File a civil lawsuit. First and foremost, it is important to prevent sexual crimes from taking place, especially in places where alcohol is served. We all need to be extra careful. The combination of alcohol and force, just like the case that I've introduced, is the type of crime that victims have no other choice but to give up. First of all, how much alcohol people can drink varies for each person, and it is difficult to prove what and how many drinks they have had. and how intoxicated they were. Therefore, it is difficult to determine if that person is incapable of refusal for the crime of constructive forcible sexual intercourse. Also, because the victims are drunk, it makes them incapable of resisting sufficiently, leaving them to have intercourse without being subject to violence or threatening. In this situation, the perpetrator can get away with saying that he did not think she was that drunk, or that he thought she was agreeing with him because she did not resist him with strong force. It is especially important to ensure your personal safety when you go out for a drink. If a victim is involved in a sex crime and the perpetrator is not prosecuted, the options the victim has are to consult with the Committee for the Inquest of Prosecution and to file a civil lawsuit. The Committee for the Inquest of Prosecution is an organization that will review a case once again and examine whether the decision not to prosecute was rightful or not. However, we cannot have high expectations, as around 80% of the cases have been judged in the past to be not worthy of prosecution in the end. In fact, the female victim introduced in this video hesitated to file a case with the committee. This is because she did not have the mental capacity to be betrayed by someone again. If the Committee for the Inquest of Prosecution does not provide any help, the final thing that can be done is to file a civil lawsuit. Some cases that could not be handled as actual crimes can still receive solid compensation by winning a civil lawsuit. However, this is not an easy option either. For victims of sexual violences who have suffered the shocking consequences of not getting justice, to continue to go to court on their own is a huge burden. Unless the current Japanese prosecutorial structure and laws change significantly, it would be best to understand the current situation and to prevent crimes before they happen. Then lastly, today's conclusion. The main reasons why horrible sex crimes in Japan are often dismissed are: 1. There are flaws in the law. 2. The public prosecutor's office is a masculine organization. In order for the perpetrator to be prosecuted for a sex crime, it needs to be proven that there was assaults and threats to force sexual intercourse, or that the victim was in an unconscious state or was incapable to resist. However, especially for cases where the victim is intoxicated, it becomes more difficult to prove these things. These are some things we can do to deal with sex crimes in Japan. 1. Be very cautious when drinking outside. 2. To consult with the Committee for the Inquest of Prosecution. 3. File a civil lawsuit. However, it is a heavy burden for victims of sexual violence to continue to go consult or go to court on their own. So of course, it would be best to understand the current situation and prevent crimes before them happening. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you thought this video was informative, please hit the like button to help me boost this video to more people. And our goal is to achieve 2 million subscribers by January 2023, so your help would mean a lot. And please check out our sub-channel and membership through the link inside the description box. Thanks again, and I'll see you in my next video. 皆さんどうもありがとうございました。